Hola chicos, in this video we're going to take a look at the vocab from chapter 3, but just the first part of the vocab, okay? So after you've watched this video, you will be able to use new vocab to describe your day at school and the people who are at school and the activities that you do there, okay? So let's talk about where can you find the vocab. You should have done your flashcards. Let me pull them up here. Like here, so you have the word on the front, on the back you have a drawing of that word, and then eventually, if you haven't done so, you're going to want to cut them out. So what I would recommend is actually highlighting the ones that are verbs. And if you remember how to identify a verb is it ends in AR, ER, or IR. You'll notice a lot of our verbs from this chapter end in AR, and we'll be actually taking a look at that. What are we doing with these AR verbs, okay? That's for a different video. So my recommendation is to do that, and that way you can distinguish between the things we have at school and the things we do at school, okay? So that's where you know what your vocab list is for now. Where do you look up the definition? So you should have a dictionary, wordreference.com, in your physical book, or here you can see I'm on eStudio, I'm in my virtual book. So you can know that if you open the textbook, which is where I'm at, and then you go to chapter 3, vocab 1. That's the first one we're going to start with. And the thing I love about eStudio is it'll read you.
Prestar atención.
So you know what the words sound like. You know that that's not enseñar, right? It's enseñar, right? It has that tilde over the end. So that's going to help you identify the vocab. The other place that's really awesome to identify the vocab is going to be in your virtual chalkboard. So if you go into coursework now, remember that chapter 3 is unit 4 because the first unit that we did was on preliminary lessons. It doesn't have a chapter name. So if you go into unit 4 and click on your interactive chalkboard, it will pull it up like this. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Now here's the thing that some students get caught up on. You have to click on the slide for things to drop in. And then if you want to hear the pronunciation, you do the same thing.
Enseñar.
It's the same thing. You'll notice it's the same voice, okay? So that's really helpful.
En la sala de clase.
Okay? And then it'll even read the sentences to
Los
you.
alumnos están en la sala de clase.
So you can start to give meaning and context to them. So you should have looked them up. You should have gone over them. Let's talk about a couple if they're not obvious, okay? So we know sala's room. So la sala de clase is the classroom, right? Enseñar is right above this teacher, and if you look it up, you know it means to teach. So right now I'm teaching you about the vocab. The students are paying attention, so they are prestar atención. Looks like they're getting ready to study, so that would be estudiar. Here we have a noun because it doesn't end in AR, ER, IR, so it can't be a verb, right? Or at least not an infinitive. So we have el pupitre, right? I prefer mesa, table, as opposed to desk, but it just kind of depends on the situation in the country, and it doesn't really matter. Okay, so let's go to the next one. It's important to remember that your vocab is not limited to the words and the pictures, but also the phrases and sentences around them. So, for example, we know that from our flashcards, sacar una nota is part of our vocab. So here we see it presented in context. So to get a grade, this is obviously Tomas Garcia's report card. So we're looking at whether he saca una nota buena o una nota mala. Okay. So you're going to look at those. This one's interesting because it's going to give you a little bit more detail. Oh, didn't click on it. So if you want to get someone's attention, say mira, like, hey, look. And ¿qué pasa? Is like, what's going on? What's happening? Okay. So a little more vocab, levantar la mano, right? We have a pregunta is a question. You guys know that because we drill that a lot. Contesta la pregunta. So obviously the teacher answers the question. These are words that we've worked on a lot in class. So the teacher da un examen or una prueba. So those are synonyms. Los alumnos toman el examen. They take the exam. So here, this is something we're going to talk about with the uniform. We know we don't use a uniform in Spokane Public Schools, but we're going to talk about in other places that they do. So you have a camisa and una blusa. And just like you've heard me mention before with like the rooms, clothing, and food, are 3 topics that are super regionalized. So they might call it camisa in some places and they might call it by a different word in others. Just like we call it an elevator here and a lift in England, even though we both speak English, okay? So, una blusa en una camisa, I would just specify that a blusa, for me, is something that buttons up. It's usually a lighter white cotton, okay? It's a blouse. Una camisa, un pantalón, and una falda. So she's wearing a falda. So that is called a uniforme. We have the word llevar, which means to wear or to carry. In this case, obviously, it's wear. And that's it for that side. Then we have los materiales escolares. So we, being a cognate ninja, we can know that those are school materials, but I would call them school supplies, right? So he has a mochila. The question is, ¿qué lleva en la mochila? So in this case, we're seeing lleva. It's not what is he wearing in the backpack. What is he carrying in the backpack? What does he have in there? So he's got his school supplies. He's got un libro, a book, un bolígrafo, a pen, una hoja de papel. So una hoja is a sheet, and papel is the actual paper. Una calculadora, calculator, un lápiz, a pencil, and un cuaderno, a notebook. And then finally we have la mochila here. Okay? So that is it, I think, for vocab 1. You're going to want to make sure you have those flashcards done and you've drawn pictures that are meaningful for you, okay? So make sure to check out my next video. That's going to be the grammar video regarding what we're doing with all those AR verbs, all right? I'll see you in class. Bye.